And I think people have a lot more power than they think, right? They can use their social
Mhm.
media to voice their opinions and advocate for causes that they're passionate about. I tell people all the time, having a drink at a gay bar doesn't seem like you're really doing anything of significance, but you are. You're supporting that gay
Yeah.
bar. So if you take those spaces away, that next generation didn't have the opportunity that we've had.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Duke's Download. I'm Duke Mason. You'll have to forgive me. I have a little bit of a sore throat today, but nonetheless, I am really grateful and really excited to be joined by our guest, Tristan Schukraft. He's a longtime friend, an entrepreneur, and LGBTQ plus business leader. He founded Mister as a telehealth platform providing no-cost or low-cost PrEP for HIV prevention. He positioned Mister at the cross-section of healthcare, technology, and human rights. And before launching Mister, he founded and scaled multiple tech ventures, gaining the reputation for combining motivation or innovation with purpose-driven leadership. He uses entrepreneurship as a platform to advance public health, empower LGBTQ plus communities, and redefine healthcare accessibility and accountability in the modern age. He's also the owner of the world-renowned Abbey here in West Hollywood, one of my favorite spots, the Tryst Hotels in Puerto Vallarta in Puerto Rico, and this coming summer, in the Fire Island Pines. Tristan, thank you so much. It was a long introduction only because
I'm sorry you had to say all
you've got
that.
so much going on. So
People ask me, what do I do? And I'm like, how much time you got? You know, that was, and you didn't even
no,
cover everything, but that's okay. It was a very long
no, there's a
introduction.
lot. I mean,
You
and I
forgot one
plan
time
on diving.
nemesis, the WeHo City Council campaign.
Absolutely. Well, that's how we met. Going on what, a decade now, which is
It is a
insane.
decade. Yes.
I can't believe that.
I don't need more friends like you, where I know them 10 plus years. That's not good.
Well, I mean, speaking of how you've got so much going on, you're often called the CEO of everything gay, from tech disruptor to hospitality mogul. Take us back to your LA roots. What was that first pivotal moment that sparked the entrepreneurial fire in you, and how did it shape who you are today?
Well, I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. I was always a hustler. I always had some side hustle. I mean, I used to I had a store in swap meets in the Valley. I had a gardening business. I mean, I always was doing something. Richard Branson was my idol, so he inspired me, and it was always had my finger in a lot of pies, and didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I was always like a serial entrepreneur. I like building things. I like challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, every one of my businesses kind of started with filling a void, right? Seeing something that I didn't like. Like if you look at like Tryst Hotels, for example, I wanted somewhere where I could go that's a luxury experience, but my boyfriends aren't going to be, afraid to lay out with a pool in their thong, or there's just music. You go to a Tryst Hotel, you're going to hear Lady Gaga and
Mm-hmm.
Dua Lipa. You're not going to hear some elevator music. So, yeah, that's just like one example. And then, but yeah, my first major company was doing e-ticketing for the airline industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I love aviation. And so that's my passion. And my whole family is in the aviation space. So I saw at that time there was paper tickets, and there was a transition to e-ticketing, and I saw an opportunity and really risked everything to get into that business.
Well, I was doing some research on the business. It's called ID90. It was revolutioning e-ticketing for airline crews. And you were just 21 years old when you did that?
I was 21 years old, and people like, you're a programmer? And I'm like, I don't know anything about programming. I mean, back then it was just like, I just clicked OK to every pop-up that came. And oftentimes that came with a virus of some sort. But yeah, I mean, originally it was kind of like an Expedia for airline personnel. And then the One World Alliance came to me and said, hey, we want to launch this new fare program. You build a calculator and you can sell more hotels. So I thought, okay, that's a great idea. And then I went to this conference in Montevideo in Uruguay, and I'm like, there's this 100% e-ticketing mandate. So here I am, I started my first company at 21, and at like 25, I have 2 homes, got good amount of cash in the bank, and I just said, you know what, this is a huge opportunity with e-ticketing. And it was a real challenge because I was in this industry full of, people in their late 40s and
Mhm.
50s, and it was like square hole, square peg, and they weren't really excited about moving from paper tickets to e-tickets. And can you imagine
Mhm.
now traveling with a paper ticket? Oh my God. It's just,
You
there's
were
so
you
much
were you were right
resistance.
on the cutting edge of that revolution. I mean, it is amazing. What well, it seems like you were there. Obviously, you had the vision and and the intuition and just that business savvy to know that like this was an industry that really needed some attention. But the fact that
Yeah.
you like caught that wave and you were on the the very peak of that wave is pretty incredible.
Well, that's the key to success. It's
Yep.
always being right there at the
True.
top of the wave, not behind, not in
Yep.
front. I tell entrepreneurs all the time, you can have the best idea and the timing is terrible, right?
Mhm.
Or more importantly, just, everybody, a lot of times people come to me like, oh my God, if I only had that idea. And I'm like, well, you could have the same idea as me, but it's about execution, right? And
Yep.
and kind of listening to your gut. But at almost, it was like 30 years old, and I'm like, we built this technology. We didn't have an airline client for the e-ticketing,
Mhm.
and I was on fumes. I had to raise $18 million for that company. And as I said, a lot of people were very much against what I was doing. You're going to take all of our jobs. And I actually was here in Puerto Rico, and this lady was flailing her arms around, and I thought, oh my God, another naysayer, right?
Mhm.
And I went back there, and she goes, "This is amazing. We need this." And it was Hawaiian Airlines, and they signed on within 2 days, and that like literally saved my company. So
Wow. It's pretty
yeah,
incredible.
it
Um,
was just
I
enough
will,
paddling to get to the front of the
oh,
wave.
well, I mean, everything you do. I mean, I know you, I'm lucky enough to know you on a personal basis as well. And I know, you're constantly on the go. I mean, we were just talking before we came on just about how you've constantly either got a new business you're starting or you've got a renovation going on for one of the businesses. So, I mean, it's your work ethic and, but you also manage to have fun, which I also appreciate.
Yes, I do.
Um, what
Work
did
hard, play hard.
Well, absolutely. When did you make the shift, or how and when did you decide to make the shift to focus on businesses that were more LGBTQ plus oriented? Was that a conscious decision, or was it that you'd already achieved a certain amount of success in other realms that you were like, okay, now this is something that I can focus on, or how was that decision? How did that decision come to pass?
You know, after running ID90 for almost 14 years, I was traveling 600,000 miles a year. Ironically, we had our development and call center in Argentina, and so
Mm.
every other week I would be flying from LA to Argentina, wishing I was at the Abbey for Sunday Fun Day. Of course, full circle, I now own the Abbey. Um, but I was traveling like 600,000 miles a year, and I'm like, okay, I want to step down, and I thought really, I'm just gonna do nothing. And after a couple of months, I got bored. The first 3 months going out and partying and going to pool parties and stuff was fun. And the first business I invested in was Frontiers Media.
Mm.
And I said I don't think I've worked ever that hard ever for so little money. And then I'm like, did I make any money on that? I don't know if I made any money on that. I think I lost money. Not all ventures are profitable.
Mm.
Um, but I think like with LGBT media, it's important to, have a voice and a point of view.
Mhm.
Um, and make sure our voices are heard, right? So that was the first gay business. And
Mhm.
then
Did
we
you,
sold
by the way, I know I should know this, but did you own Frontiers?
I was an investor in
You
Frontiers, yeah.
investor in Frontiers.
So I
Were
was the
you
vice
involved on
president.
the editorial level as well, or just as a,
No,
from
no.
a, okay. All right.
Every 2 weeks, the team published a magazine that's like 98 pages. Like I've always, one of my
Right.
little bucket list items is to write a book. I mean, I could not produce that. I mean, from the graphics to the writing. Um, I mean, the editorial team, I mean, just was, they could write a story in 2 hours. I just couldn't do it. But it was terrible because every 2 weeks you publish this magazine. Of course, you got to sell the ads, you got to create the content, you got to format it. And then you're like, whew, all right, start again. Got to do it again. You're like all over.
It's kind
Uh,
of a thankless, as much as I mean, I'm a writer, but thankfully I'm not involved on that level because I can't even imagine the amount of. But I also admire people who somehow manage to stay afloat in that field because it's just,
A
you know,
tough business. I mean, it's
yeah.
changed so much. I don't care if you're the New York Times or, you know, the Washington Herald. I mean, it's just a tough business, you know, to compete in a digital world. But yeah, and that was one of the things. You create this great publication, right? There's some great profiles in there and historical. You know, we used to have this big room downstairs with all of the old issues, and it was like a time capsule of the gay movement, right? It
Mhm.
was really amazing. And what was even more amazing is some of the promoters and personalities on the covers looked younger 20 years later than they did. I don't know if that was just cosmetic work or better Photoshop technology, but they definitely looked younger. So, but yeah, it was just like you write this, all this, you produce this magazine, and how can we digitize it and make it evergreen? So
Mhm.
that was one of my first ventures into the gay space, and then I think the big one after that was Mister. I was helping.
What year did you start, Mister, get involved? Because you ran for city council. We met in 2015. Was it after 2015 that the company started?
Yeah,
Or
so I
okay,
think I was pretty involved in Frontiers, and during that election, we were
right.
like in the process of selling Frontiers, which was terrible timing.
Got it.
Um, but yeah, so I think it was about 2018 where we officially launched.
Got
It
it.
really started off as, you know, here we have the opportunity to eliminate HIV of all of those people that are negative on PrEP, and all of those people that are positive are virally suppressed, right? You know, you take one pill a day to prevent it, one pill a day to
Mhm.
treat it. U equals U, you know, you're
Mhm.
untransmittable, undetectable, untransmittable. So, you know, when I was 17 in Amsterdam, living in Amsterdam, a good friend of mine died of AIDS. And so that always left a lasting impression. I think I'm 46, so I'm not like, you know, super old, but I'm also not super young. And, you know, people like my age and younger just really haven't experienced the AIDS
Mhm.
crisis. And lucky for them, they shouldn't, right? I mean, that's a chapter of LGBTQ history we can leave
Mhm.
behind. But I think when you lose somebody, you know, to HIV or AIDS, it leaves a lasting impact. So that was really my motivation. I was like, here we have the tools, and we kind of owe it to that generation to use whatever resources we have, because they didn't have those resources.
Mhm.
And so when I started Mister, it was 10 friends, then 100 friends, and I wasn't looking for a full-time job, but
Mhm.
it quickly became one, and that's really where I took my background in IT and technology and said we got to make it a platform. So
Mhm.
we launched. I think I launched it about a year later, and during Palm Springs Pride, I wanted to get, you know, force my friends to volunteer and market for me, and our goal was like 300 people before the end of the year. We got like 300 and change, so we
Mhm.
made the goal. But now we do like 600 people a day. We have over 700,000 registered
100,000.
users
So
on our
double,
platform.
in
So,
fact, more than
and
double.
just actually had a study with Emory University published in the American Journal of Medicine, where we highlighting that we represent 20% of all PrEP prescriptions in the country. So yeah, I mean,
Incredible.
pretty dramatic growth, but still
And
so
I mean,
much more to
only
do.
what? Only 7 years. I mean, that's kind of unbelievable, kind of incredible.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. It's been a fun ride, but then I think like, oh God, I just wanted 100,000, and you know, and we still have so much more to do, because
mhm. Yep.
the CDC wants 1.2 million people. Like half of them are gay men, and then there's a
Mhm.
large percentage of women of color, and then others. So I just look at it and I go, there's roughly 8 million gay men in America. So
Mhm.
600,000 is just like, you know, the tip of the iceberg. And there's so much
Mhm.
more we can do with women of color as well.
Mhm.
I think the challenge there on like gay men, they're not aware of PrEP, and they don't feel they need it, whereas gay men know what PrEP is.
Mhm. You just had a huge event at the Abbey, what, a few weeks ago to celebrate or to not to recognize, um, uh, is it National Prep Day?
Yeah,
It's huge. I was in Mexico. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but it
it
looked,
was
uh,
it was a great event. And
yeah.
you know what was amazing about this event is it was a big party celebrating sexual health. Like, who has a party celebrating sexual health? It's a weird concept. But lots of celebrity star power came out to support both gay and straight,
Yep.
and a diverse crew too, like Nene Leakes, and one of my favorites, Cardi B was there. I was really excited to see her. Of course, Dua Lipa was as the
That was
big
pretty
star
epic.
surprise performance.
Diplo, right?
Yeah, Diplo,
Unbelievable.
Demi Lovato. I'm like, there's one more. It's Dua Lipa, Diplo, and Demi Lovato. I'm like, why does everyone's name start with these? Um, but yeah, Cardi B, like, we had a great
Party.
conversation on the blue carpet because of course the theme was blue. And I said, you really have such an amazing opportunity to kind of reach out to your followers and educate them on prep and the importance of it. And she went home that night, and did a 1 hour Instagram live in true Cardi B style, F bombs, N word, but talking her language to her
Yeah,
people. And it was
absolutely.
really amusing. I was really happy to have her and others at the party, speaking in support of prep and what we're doing at Mister.
I mean, one of the things I really appreciate about you and about the way that you've made your businesses and particularly Mister. It just feels like intentionally or not, you've managed to really serve a need that's extremely important. Also, at a particular time when that need is under fire. I mean, right now, obviously, LGBTQ plus healthcare is under fire. HIV prevention funding is under fire. Um, how has the national and the international, but particularly because we're in a particularly precarious situation politically in the States right now when it comes to HIV, AIDS, healthcare, and LGBTQ plus rights, how have you managed to work your way around that or address that issue?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Mister and our companion site Sister is that you can do it from home, and so that stigma, or you can avoid if you feel uncomfortable going to your doctor, or you live in a small town where everybody knows the doctor, or you can't speak freely, or I mean, it's shocking, and people go, oh, in the middle of America, it must be hard to find a doctor that prescribes prep. You can go to the Valley or Long Island, and there's doctors. And when I started Mister, that would refuse to write prep for moral reasons. And you think, can they really do that? But they can. Um, so, uh, yeah, I mean, the ripping up of the rainbow crosswalks, I think, like, this is a nice looking crosswalk. Why are we so concerned about this? But I think, uh, you know, one reason or another, people like a mission, a purpose in life, and unfortunately, sometimes it's not the right mission that they should be up against, or supporting, I should say. And I think that's why places like the Abbey are so important.
Mhm.
People always say that Grinder killed, the gay bar. I don't think that's true. I think sometimes you want to order in, sometimes you want to eat out. There's a variety, and nothing's going to replace that human interaction that you get at a bar or a club, or at maybe even a gay sports league that you participate in. But like places like the Abbey, it's about creating a place where you feel safe, you can be who you want to be without judgment, and more importantly, it reminds you that you're not alone, that there's a lot of other like-minded people.
It's so true. It makes, I mean, it should have been self-evident to me, but the Richard Branson comparison, because you're totally, I mean, without a doubt, you are the gay, the LGBTQ plus answer to Richard Branson, without a doubt, and you've done an amazing job of manifesting that and marketing that, because it's and also, I think, I go to the Abbey quite frequently, as you know, and I've probably been there over 1,000 times over the last 10 or 15 years, if not double that, who knows? But I was talking to Todd, the general manager there, the other day, and I was saying one thing that I think you've done, which isn't just a marketing or aesthetic or superficial thing. It actually has the effect of giving our community more support, and is you've taken places like the Abbey, but also, as we'll get into, other places around the world or other businesses, Fire Island Pines, which I wanted to ask you about at some point. But um, you take existing community centers, institutions like the Abbey, and you take them to the next level in terms of having more high-profile events, making aesthetic improvements and renovations. And I think that that actually has the impact of providing more or heightening or giving visibility to places where the community can gather. And like, if it hadn't been for you, there's a good chance that the gay community would have lost the Abbey, or at least in its, in terms of being this cultural center where people can gather and, have events and find resources. And so I think in that sense, you really do a big service to our community, because if it weren't for you, there's a good chance that, in places like Puerto Rico or Mexico, that we might not have these places where our community can gather. And I think in that sense, it's not just a marketing thing. It also has a altruistic or, social and cultural benefit for our community.
Yeah. I mean, Abbey's like the Bloomingdale's or the Macy's of them all, right? That disappears. It's like kind of a
Yep.
domino effect. And here in San Juan, there's no better evidence of what happens when one institution. So the hotel I purchased is right here in front of the gay beach. I think like 8 years ago, it converted into a straight hotel, but this was where like they had the Sunday tea dance. So think about that. Every Sunday, that whole vibe is now gone. And then the Circo Puerto Rico, which is like the Abbey of San Juan, it closed. And then all of a sudden the gay scene just disappeared. I mean, obviously there's a lot of gays here,
Yeah.
but it's so important to keep those spaces alive. And I can assure you that I don't know how I got into the preservation of queer spaces, but I'm grateful I'm in a position to do it. But it's there's definitely other businesses that are much more lucrative that one could get into. But I think it's important to have a space now more than ever. And yeah, I'm a perfectionist, so we're doing new sound and lighting in the Abbey. Like you, I've been going to the Abbey for many years, and finally I get free drinks, which is really good. Unfortunately, I don't live in LA anymore. But when you sit there and you work all day at the Abbey, you look up and you start seeing like, where's that cable go, right? And one of my biggest pet peeves is wiring. So in addition to the new sound and lighting, which people will observe, I've done a lot of other superficial things that no one will ever notice or appreciate. But I feel if you're going to go into whatever business you go into, you go in 100%.
Well, you do, without a doubt. And it's clear in terms of, I mean, the fact that you're already renovating your business in Puerto Rico, and it's only been open for a few years now?
Yeah, well, this was the first hotel. So I was on the gate here, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's a car park on the beach here. Why is this car park on the beach? We should have a gay beach club, right? And then I was told the hotel next door was for sale. So I ended up buying that. And I was with my friend at the time. And he goes, okay, you're going to buy the hotel, whatever. And I'm like, 5 days later, I had a signed agreement. And what was unique about that was I didn't know it was a gay hotel before. So when the owners wanted to meet me and say, well, what's your intention with this? And I thought, oh God, when I tell them it's going to be a gay hotel, they're going to like, thank you, goodbye. But that was the whole reason they sold it to me. I told them it was going to be gay. They're like, we think that's a great idea. It used to be gay. I didn't know at the time that it used to be a gay hotel.
Wow.
So,
well, that speaks. What I wanted to ask you, so maybe you can, not to interrupt, but because it's sort of the question you're answering. How do you decide where to open the business, or or whether it be one of the hotels or just a restaurant, beach club? How do you identify both geographically in terms of the country or the city, but also just how do you see, okay, like this particular area or country or whatever, has a need that I can address here?
Yeah. Here was my retirement plan. I thought, 2 years, I'll be retired. I can just run a hotel on the beach. But Puerto Vallarta was the next hotel that I bought. And that was for 6 years. Every year, this hotel was under construction. And it was like, are they running out of money? What's going on? And so every year I would like, you want to sell? And he says, no, I don't want to sell. But PV is like a gay mecca, right? It's I've never seen like young people, old people, rich people, poor people, gay, straight, everyone lives cohesively, and you can walk, and it's super safe, and you got beautiful beaches, beautiful men.
PV is one of my favorite places on the planet. And your hotel is one of my favorite places. So it is like living. It's like being in a dream there. You literally
Yeah.
feel like you're in a dream.
So, PV is a great gay destination, and beautiful boys, as I said. So, but that's how kind of where like Abbey is an institution, right? It's like one of the oldest, most famous bars and clubs in the country, if not the world. And then you got like Fire Island, which has so much history there. I mean, the first tea dance in 1966 there, the invasion, which if it wasn't for the invasion, maybe RuPaul's Drag Race wouldn't be around or as popular as it was today, or drag brunches. I mean, the fact is, someone came dressed in drag, was denied service at the Blue Whale, came back the next day with a couple of friends and had a sit-in, and now it's transformed. It just celebrated the 50th anniversary last year. So it's seeing places like that, and during the AIDS crisis too. I mean, people couldn't get care in the city, and they came out to Fire Island, to the Pines Clinic, right? So there's so much history there, and you get there, and it's an amazing place too. It's fun. So I always look at places that, well, where would I want to go? Where do I have fun? What's important to the gay community? So it kind of ticks all three of those boxes. I mean, Rio de Janeiro was our third hotel, I think. Wow. Fourth hotel, sorry. And Ipanema. I mean, who doesn't want to live in Ipanema? I went down there again. 6 years I've been waiting. Like a lot of people, like you, oh my God, you have all these properties now, and we do. We have 6 hotels, I think we've announced now, but it's been in the works for so long. That hotel in PV, 6 years every year, and then 2 years trying to get this hotel. More than 2 years trying to get this hotel in Rio that was closed for 8 years. But I remember going down to Rio, and I talked to my partner, and I said, well, can you imagine living here? He goes, not really. I'm like, because we're going to be living here in a couple of years. Like, you haven't even bought the hotel yet. And I'm like, I'm going to get the hotel. Don't worry.
What is the latest on the Fire Island project? Because from what I understand, I've been to Fire Island once, and I was only there for one day, but I managed to pack everything in. Although I want to come back and once the hotel's open, have a more expansive experience. But I stayed at the Botel before it actually thankfully condemned. And
that's why you only stayed one day, by the way.
Yeah. Well, if I don't think I
probably should have been condemned at that point.
I don't know if I could have survived one more day at the Botel. It was, but I also appreciated that that whole. It was obviously the Botel itself was not great, but you just go there, and even as someone from that's from California, you go and you realize you are in a historic area for our community. But what is the latest in terms of you're going to be ready to open by next summer? Most likely, is that right?
We hope so. Permits have been taking forever, unfortunately. That is when I purchased Fire Island. I went and did my walkthrough, and it was December, and I just came up from the Caribbean and was not fully prepared for the cold weather. So I might have it looks good. Let's get back inside. So when summer came around and I took a deeper look, I mean, the place is falling apart. Nobody's put money into that place for a long time. And so the reality is, like, we gutted the hotel where we can't tear it down. And unfortunately, it's the only brick building in the entire island. So when I first got there, I told the fire marshal, I'm like, if the hotel catches fire, just, no rush. But it's built to last. And so you got the Blue Whale that is in desperate need of attention too. But septic systems, I mean, I'm redoing everything. It's going to be beautiful when it's done. But right now,
right.
The hotel, for example, we have the furniture and some of the doors, and we have the wood, and it's just in a warehouse on Long Island because we haven't got the permit for our elevator shaft. Staff housing, we're trying to rebuild staff housing, and unfortunately, some in the community were very much against staff housing. I'm not sure why, but our staff work 6 days a week, and they're there to make the Fire Island experience is not going to be the same without tea dance and pool parties and things like that. We have staff that are sharing 2 people sharing 80 square feet and 4 people sharing a 40 square foot bathroom. So to me, I feel like employees should have AC, Wi-Fi, TVs, and when
Mhm.
their downtime decompress. So we have a lot to do on Fire Island, redo all the staff housing and really rebuilding the whole town. They used to call it the commercial district. I've rebranded it the waterfront, because who wants to go to a commercial district on vacation? Sounds like a place you park your U-Haul, right? Um, so a lot of exciting things, but we put some lipstick on the pig, this year. I mean, the pool looks great. It's fun, but it's going to be even better when it's completely done.
It just occurred to me, where have people been staying while, at least on term of on Fire Island Pines? Because I know I'm aware from there's Cherry Grove, but in terms of that area, where have people been staying? Like when you were out there this summer, or this past year, where did you stay? When you were you? There are other hotels, I know, but
No, there's actually there's no other hotel, right? I mean, there's a hotel in Cherry Grove, but in Pines there's only one hotel, and it's been closed for several years,
right.
right? And as you know, you had to share bathrooms, which
Mhm.
could be kind of hot, but more than likely it's not the fantasy that you were looking for. Um, so now all of our, by the way, our new hotel will all have 30 rooms with in-suite bathrooms.
Oh,
So you have to rent a house. If
yeah.
you don't know that, that's kind of what has kind of kept a lot of people from experiencing Fire Island, is if you don't have a group of friends, or you haven't booked your home quick enough, you're not going to be able to experience it. So now with the hotel, by the way, you book a house for 1 week at a time, right? So if you can't afford to take a whole week off of work, or pay for
Right.
that house, then you really don't get to experience it. So now with the hotel, you can come for a couple of days, you can come for a week, you can stay as long as you want.
Will this be the first Tryst Hotel on the mainland United States?
Well, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, but I think Provincetown is going to beat it out as the first Tryst.
Wow.
So yeah.
Unbelievable. How do you do it? It's just beyond incredible. I
I
mean, you've got, so
keep going.
I don't think I even knew that there was a Provincetown
Yes.
Tryst in the works.
Yeah. Well, it was
Unbelievable.
announced last week, so you're not too
Oh,
far. You're not too far.
wow.
Have you been to Provincetown?
I have not. And
Well,
I,
that's good, by the way. I'm glad that you haven't been to a lot of these places. I mean, there's a lot of people to sell hotel rooms to.
well, no, absolutely. I mean, it's, and also I think, these places, I mean, my knowledge of Provincetown is pretty limited, but in the same way, it makes sense that you would go in that direction, because I think, from what I understand, and gays watching this who are Provincetown aficionados, don't get angry at me, but my understanding is that it's kind of, and there's a positive to this, but there's also some not negatives, but Provincetown is pretty old school, and in terms of both the hotels there, the establishments there, having a new hotel presence might actually be something that appeals to a lot of people and that might draw. So I think that it makes total sense. I was trying to be a little careful with my wording there, but it's it's like
You know,
these are places, historic places that can maybe use or benefit from having a new establishment. That's
yeah.
I'm just trying to
You
be
know,
careful, because people who love these places, and I love Fire Island, but I think it's great that you're providing these new, more updated, new places where people can stay.
all of these places, Fire Island, Provincetown, West Holly, people are really passionate about their community, right? And so they're skeptical of an outsider.
Right.
Born and raised in LA, so I'm not really an outsider in West Hollywood, but going to Fire Island, you know, I've been there a handful of times, and people were skeptical of what my intentions were. And I think the same is true in Provincetown to a certain extent. But with Tryst Hospitality, our objective is to preserve the queer space. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to tear down. So we bought the
Right.
Crown and Anchor, which is a complex that has multiple venues inside of it, bars, cabaret, restaurant, and whatnot. And then it has a pool, because every Tryst Hospitality or every Tryst Hotel has to have a pool. Um, and so we're going to upgrade the hotel. So it'll be the Tryst Provincetown at the Crown and Anchor, because the Crown and Anchor is, like I said, the whole complex. And I think now you've been to the Tryst Puerto Vallarta. when you see that, it's like a luxury 5-star experience where you see someone wearing a thong by the pool, drag queen in the pool, drag queen in the fountain down at the restaurant. Um, uh, it's a space where people are like, oh my God, finally we have a place to call our own. And if you experience the Tryst PV, I think people in Fire Island or Provincetown or Rio de Janeiro or whatnot are less concerned.
Right.
And then there's a large portion of the community that's really excited, right? Because they recognize that it needs investment, that it's kind of fallen at tough times and new energy. I mean, we have drag queens from Provincetown, Delta Miles, who performs, at the Tryst Puerto Vallarta. Pixie from Fire Island is performing at the Abbey in Puerto Vallarta. So not only are we coming into town and preserving an institution, we're not completely changing it. We're adding our own flair, and then we're giving the people that work at those establishments even greater opportunity to work at establishments all around the world.
You're connecting, you're sort of interconnecting and providing it almost, in my head, I'm seeing it almost as like a map, you see with all the different flight routes. So you're connecting them, but it's in a good way, you're basically providing, interconnecting the LGBTQ plus community. And if now it feels almost like, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, I mean, quite literally, it's a hospitality group where within it, you've got, the Abbey, you've got Tryst, but it's almost like you're creating an umbrella group through which not only these businesses, but the community can connect. And I think, in my humble opinion, I understand the concerns people have about preservation. I'm, as a West Hollywood resident, I've always been passionate about preserving and protecting our community. But to me, I think you're doing a huge service to our community. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think it's a positive thing. I think people can see from the Abbey that you didn't go in there and say, I'm going to completely, do away with everything that made the Abbey what it is. You actually preserved all the great things about it. And like any business that's been around 35 years, you gave it a little bit of freshening up.
Freshening up. Well,
But there's not one thing I remember. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I'm just passionate about you and all the good things you're doing. There wasn't one thing at the Abbey where I thought, God, you should have kept this or should have kept that. Everything about it is virtually the same. It's just heightened, taken to the next level a little bit. So,
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the key is if you change the Abbey or any of these venues too much, then it loses its appeal, right? So, actually at the Abbey, David's Bar was at the front and they renamed it Tristan's Bar. And I'm like, it's okay. It can stay David's Bar. He was the founder. We should honor his legacy. I mean, he was a pioneer in his own right, bringing the gay bar outside and a restaurant, bar, club. I mean, Abbey's very unique. I remember when the only option gays had was like going into a black box, with fog machines. So, and in addition to keeping these things true to what they are, we like to really support the community. In Puerto Vallarta, all the plants in our hotel come from the botanical gardens where we purchase a bunch of land to help their preservation efforts. We do beach cleanups. Our employees only have to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, which is unusual for Mexico. If you get a chocolate on your pillow, it's not coming from M&M Mars. It's going to come from a local chocolatier. Photographs in the room or a local gay photographer. So we really try to personalize it and then incorporate the local community as much as possible.
No, I think that's absolutely reflected in both the Abbey and the Tryst in Puerto Vallarta. It's not like you feel like you're at a Marriott or something.
Thank God.
No, but there's you really does feel unique to the area that it's in, and also that it feels like it's part of that local community.
You want consistency, but then a bit of personalized local touches. That's
absolutely.
our job.
Last question for you. I know you ran in the same election that I did for West Hollywood City Council in 2015, and obviously running for office is um, a political act, and sort of it indicates that you're interested in electoral politics, but just politics and the and issues, political issues. Do you feel like do you can still consider yourself a political person? Like, did you see buying the Abbey, which is a LGBTQ plus institution, almost as a political act that in a way you're kind of a, I mean, not to be, sounds a little over the top, but you're kind of a gay head of state in a way. I mean, you're by owning these various different places, you're representing, being a LGBTQ plus prominent business owner is kind of in itself or inherently political, and whether intended or not. And so I wonder whether you see owning and preserving these places and owning Mister and which is an important company with a role in our community. Are you still involved? Do you still see yourself as being involved in politics, I guess is.
Yeah, I think, when politicians say we're going to take these spaces away and you're preserving them,
Right.
you're kind of taking a political stance. And yeah, I would say the only thing better than making money is giving it away. So when you're a politician, you have great power and responsibility, and you should look after the interests of your voters. I didn't win, and I think really now I'm making more of an impact than I ever
Right.
would in politics. In fact, I just came back from the Victory Fund in Washington, D.C. last week, and it's all about supporting LGBTQ candidates in all levels of government. I'm able to do that and make a mark well beyond Fire Island or
Mhm.
Provincetown or West Hollywood and whatnot. So definitely active. In college I took political science, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to take political science. I ended up loving it. Took political science too. Ran for office, and yes, a lot of hard work, canvassing, going to meetings. It's
Mhm.
I don't admire the running for office at all. And the worst part is asking for money. I think
Mhm.
that's the worst part about it. But then once you're elected, you can make that change. I think that's what's really rewarding. So I didn't win, but this is the way I can
Mhm.
really contribute to my community and make the change.
I think, I mean, as you know, I ran also, and I have not on your level quite yet, but I've tried to, I also feel like in some ways, running for being in office can both be super, depending on how great of a politician you are. Obviously, it's a great way to create change, but also I think being out of office and being a private citizen, and in my case, being a writer and a advocate, and you being a business owner, it kind of allows you to, it frees you from the constraints of serving just one particular community or one particular, you actually get to, there can be an issue that's completely separate from an issue that's happening in West Hollywood, but an issue that's needs to be addressed in New York or in a foreign country, and you can weigh in on it and try to influence it in a way where I think if you were on a local city council or, there are benefits to not being constrained by a political office, I think.
Oh, and I think people have a lot more power than they think, right? They can use their social
Mhm.
media to voice their opinions and advocate for causes that they're passionate about. I tell people all the time, having a drink at a gay bar doesn't seem like you're really doing anything of significance, but you are. You're supporting that gay
Yeah.
bar. You're supporting that space for the next generation of gays who, yeah, you can go on social media apps, but we see it all the time at the Abbey. Someone's kind of like on their own, building up the courage to come into the bar because they don't have any gay friends, and they're not out to their family or friends at work, and so they're coming into the Abbey alone for the first time. And as we know in the gay community, a lot of times your friends are become your family. So if you take those spaces away, that next generation didn't have the opportunity that we've had.
Without a doubt. And I mean this sincerely. Thank you for what you're doing for our community, because I've always been a fan of yours, but I think you've really I really think you have done a service to our community and found a way to make it fun and fresh and future looking. And I really appreciate you being here today, Tristan. Thank you. I thought it was a really great and really fun and enlightening conversation.
Yeah. Well, likewise. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me today on Duke's Download. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by me, Duke Mason, and produced and edited by Josh Rosenzweig. Original music composed by Nell Balaban. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review. It really helps others to discover the show. I'd love to stay connected with you, so join the conversation by following me at James Duke Mason on Instagram and X, or by emailing me at questions@dukesdownload.com.